So March 2nd is Teen Mental Health Awareness Day. So today I'm going to have my teenage daughter come on and talk with me, discuss some things that she deals with, that a lot of teenagers deal with, and things that we've had to overcome pertaining teen mental health. Okay, this is my daughter, my 13-year-old daughter, and she's joining me today as we talk about teen mental health awareness. She is a teen, which makes her an expert.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you are a teenager dealing with teenage things. And last year, she actually dealt with some of the teenage mental health illnesses. So, glory to God, she has grown and come a long way from this time last year. And she has agreed to talk about a little bit of her experiences to maybe help other teenagers or parents who have teenagers and you're not sure what's going on. So I guess last year, what was going on with you?
I didn't. I used to did not eat.
So, they gotta hear you. She said she used to not eat. So that is an eating disorder, which she was in denial in. So I'm talking to the parents right now. Signs that your child might be dealing with an eating disorder. Being busy parents and with them being busy teenagers, it can take a little bit or a little while before you notice it. But not wanting to eat in the morning before school, okay, if we're running late and you're rushing to school, that's fine. But then coming home and not wanting to eat lunch or not wanting to eat dinner, or I do know some teenagers will only chew gum or drink diet soda throughout the day. So not skipping meals, not wanting to eat with the family, losing a lot of weight real quick, having to buy new clothes because her clothes stopped fitting, they got really big. While you were going through that time, did you realize you had an eating disorder? You maybe didn't call it that, but did you realize something was off when you were deciding not to eat?
Yes.
So why did you choose not to eat?
Because I wasn't hungry and I didn't like the way my body looked.
Okay, so as a teenage girl, which, speaking to the women here, we were all teenage girls at one time, and especially now, I feel like social media plays a big part, but body image is really important to teenage girls. So I think it's very important to talk to your children, let them know that they're beautiful, but also encourage them to be healthy. There's healthy ways to lose weight, which we discussed that. But yeah, eating disorders is big in teenage girls. And she finally, how long do you think you were going without eating before anybody approached you about it?
Several months.
So how were you, I guess, I don't know if the word is hiding it, but how were you getting away with not eating?
Nobody ever paid attention.
I don't think that's true. I asked you several times, why weren't you eating? You always say you ate at school, or I do notice, I don't know how deep you wanted to get into this. I did notice that you would eat and then go straight to the bathroom, which made me ask you. So that's when I notice things, but not want to bring it up immediately. I think for a while, and I think it was more so not to, for her to feel like I was accusing her of anything. So I guess I was in denial myself. I was like, nah, she's not doing that. But I would notice that she would eat and then go to the bathroom a few minutes after, before I finally called her out on it. And so that led her to admitting that you were throwing your food up. So eating disorders, other teen mental health illnesses could be depression, sense of loneliness, things like that. Explain what you were going through a year ago.
Um, I had depression. I had the eating disorders of anorexia and bulimia. Um, I had suicide thoughts, all that stuff.
So, um, I think eating disorders is a big thing with teenagers, not just even teenage girls. Doing clinical rotations, I've actually learned that eating disorders is pretty big with males also. Just, I mean, just with hitting puberty and your body changes and having to deal with that. And I mean, everybody's shape is different. We know that as grown-ups, but it's hard for children to handle and deal with, especially I mean, my kids are taller than everybody else. See her, or when you see her, you don't think of her as being heavy or obese or even overweight. But when she saw herself compared to her friends who hadn't hit puberty yet or were a whole foot shorter than her, she felt big. And so she felt like, did you feel like you were fat?
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, dealing with suicide ideation. Suicide is actually I think the fourth leading mental health illnesses that teenagers deal with. The fourth. That's a lot. That's a high. Yeah, that's kind of shocking and scaring all at the same time. When I first found out that my daughter was dealing with thoughts of suicide, of course, I was scared. I will say, though, that having to deal with that over this past year really has brought us closer together. It has strengthened my relationship with God. Um, so yes, I wish she would never have had to deal with those thoughts or the things that led up to that. But I'm glad for how much she has grown. From this girl sitting next to me right now is a whole lot different than she was a year ago, even maybe 9 months ago. She's come a long way. Our relationship has come a long way, and both of our individual relationships with God and our faith has come a long way. And so I am grateful for that. It is an everyday thing. You know, we have good days, and we might have a little teenage rebellion, but nothing that's I wouldn't. You don't rebel? Okay.
No, I'm a good kid.
Yes, you are a good kid. We thank God for that. You've come a long way. But I mean, in all seriousness, suicide or thoughts of suicide is heavy. And finding out that your child is dealing with that is very humbling and very scary, to be honest. We had to think of different ways to get her to talk to us, to let her understand or see that she is loved, that we, her parents, her sisters, like her family loves her, and that most importantly, that God loves her. And it took a lot of building up her self-esteem, maybe, getting her to see her self-worth, and things like that. What do you think has changed from last year to now?
My confidence.
I'm glad to hear that. So another thing we did do, I mean, we're her parents, so we love her, but there's only so much we can do. We're not professional psychologists or psychiatrists, so we did. I did look for a counselor for her. We're on the second one. The first one we had, she was great. She went on maternity leave, and then I just ended up finding another one. And this one, it was really important for me for her to seek help, but I wanted that help to come from somebody who also had a Christian background. Because, I mean, spirituality is a big part of growth. So I wanted somebody who she felt comfortable talking to and who also had a spiritual background to kind of tie everything together. The relationship has grown. I think our communication lines are open more, but I mean, there's some things that you just don't feel comfortable saying to your parents. And I'm okay with that. I really just wanted her to be able to talk to somebody. So I am pro counseling. I don't think she was too keen to it at first, but I have seen a big difference. Even from me dropping her off at a session and her coming out, and yeah, it's great. Okay, so we discussed eating disorders. We discussed suicide. Oh, you mentioned depression. Um, when you were depressed, if you can think back to that, like just tell me what was going on.
I was always sad or angry. I was always crying. I had low energy. Didn't really want to do anything. Didn't really care about life or anything like that.
Those are like all textbook signs of depression. I guess the books know what they're talking about. um, so yes, it's kind of hard though as the parent of a teenager, because a lot of times, and maybe it's just being in denial, a lot of times you're like, that's just what teenagers go through. But I think it's very important for you to pay attention to the details, because yes, I mean, kids, teenagers, they typically don't want to do anything that you tell them to do. But when it gets to the point to where they're always sleeping, or I read somewhere that sleeping is a way of escaping. So if they're always sleeping, they could be trying to escape from whatever they're dealing with mentally.
Yeah, sleeping is because when you're sleeping, nothing's happening.
Yeah. So sleeping all the time, we noticed that. Yes, and the anger and the crying, which is hard because we would notice it, but then she's a teenage girl with hormones. So I was like, is it just the hormones? Is it? It's just hard. I mean, it's hard parenting a teenager. It's just you really need to stay prayed up. Pray for your kids. Pray for your teenagers. They are dealing with a lot. Sometimes you might miss the signs of mental illness or depression because you don't know if it's just regular teenage tendencies or they try and shut you out. Don't let them shut you out. Like, get on their nerves, get under their skin, figure out what's going on.
No, don't do that.
Yes, they'll love you for it in the long run.
Moving love.
So I don't know. We kind of just came on here to tell you the signs that we dealt with, well, that she dealt with, which in turn we had to help her get to love herself, get to see that she is worthy of living. She's worthy. She is loved. So how do you feel about yourself now?
I like myself now. Sometimes.
And that's normal. I mean, even as adults, there's some days where we love ourselves, some days where there are some things that we don't like too much about ourselves. But I think finding the balance and not staying stuck in the dark places is key. And asking for help or talking when you need to. Because as adults, I mean, we still go through things. But finding the balance and talking, not hiding, not trying to take care of things yourself because you're a teenager. You have parents for a reason. All right, so last year you were depressed, you were angry, you had an eating disorder, and you had thoughts of suicide. Imagine that there's another girl or boy on the other side of this camera dealing with those exact same things. What would you tell them? How would you encourage them?
Those good days that you have every once in a while are really worth it. And then once you actually get better, you're gonna get a lot more of those days that you really enjoy.
That's really good. Any so I'm gonna put my parents' spin on it. So those good days that you have are worth the fight to keep going.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. And then you said as you get better, you have more and more days that are worth living for. How can they get like what can they do to get better? Even if it's telling their parents, like what can they do right now when this video stops to take the first step to getting better?
Talking to their parents.
Yes, even though it's hard. So for a couple of months, we were going back and forth trying to help her, and she would go to sessions or she would talk to us and make us feel like she was doing better, and then she would regress. Until finally, when she was ready, she kept saying she didn't need help, she didn't have a problem. And finally, when she was ready, she wrote me a note and she said, I'm ready. I need help. I can't do it by myself. So I think admitting that is the first step. Talking about the note for parents, we started this journal. So like I said, keeping communication lines open and trying not to overreact to every little thing they say, and remembering that we were once children and certain things were important to us then that we don't think are that important now, but this is their time to go through those things. So we try to keep communication open. So we have a notebook that in order to get things off her chest, she's allowed to write them down in there for me. If she can't talk to me verbally, she can put it in the notebook, and then I will read it and respond. It's something that she can get things off her chest with no judgment. We don't talk about it verbally afterwards. We just write in it and put it up.
And I really like writing.
Nobody else is supposed to read it. Of course, if it was something that I felt like was dangerous, then I would have to involve her dad. But the agreement was she can speak freely to me, and I will speak freely to her. And I think it helps. Like she said, she really enjoys writing. Sometimes it's hard to talk to people and tell them what's going on, but I think writing for her helped. So we would write notes, and it was actually in a note where she broke down how she felt about herself a year ago, which was heartbreaking to me as a parent. But now, even in her writing, I could see the growth. So you just have to find what works for you. Sometimes you can't talk to somebody, but you should write them a note or a text or an email, whatever works best for you. But like she said,
nobody sends emails anymore, Mommy.
Some people send emails.
Old people send emails.
Whatever works best for you, but get it out. Speak to somebody, write to somebody, anything you have to do, but get the help that you need. Okay, so we just finished talking with my daughter, and that was us being transparent and vulnerable. So hopefully this helps somebody. But just to elaborate, some of the disorders or mental health issues that teenagers often face would be emotional disorders, which could be anxiety or depression. Depression is rough because there are a lot of days where you just don't feel like doing anything. And that is something that needs to be addressed because depression can lead to suicide. A lot of that may come from the constant comparing themselves to other people. Other disorders would be eating disorders. My daughter talked about dealing with anorexia and bulimia. There's also binge eating. Other disorders would be, there are behavioral disorders such as ADHD. And also there's harming yourself. They could participate in risky behaviors just to harm themselves, and then, their suicide. These, being a parent is hard, and being a teenager is hard. So, but I think what makes us good parents is that when we do notice that something has happened, the steps that we take to try and help them. So, like I said, praying for her, talking to her, being open with communication, finding the help that she needs. Because I am not a psychiatrist, I can only help her as a mother, but I do know that they need people to talk to, and just, you know, giving her words of affirmation, letting her know that she is great, she is loved, and she will do great things. I think as a teenager, that's words of affirmation are very important, even though they might not act like they hear us. I have come to find out that they do. They might ignore us as we're saying it, but they hear us, and it helps them. So I really do I really do hope that this has helped at least bring awareness to teen mental health, and hopefully mental health in general, whether it's with teens or adults or children, should not be something that is looked down on. We all need to work on our mental health. We need to work on all aspects of our health so that we can be healthy all around. So yeah, I will list again the things to look out for, the ways to help our teenagers that are dealing with these things, and also numbers to call for help and suicide prevention numbers. I really do hope that this helps somebody. And thank you for tuning in. Do subscribe to my channel where I will talk about more health things, nursing things, and just family. Thank you.